everybody? I'm Peanut Tillman. This is my guy, Roman Harper, and this is the NFL Players Second Acts podcast. We're in Phoenix, Arizona at the NFL annual meetings. We've got golf. We've got sunshine. We're trying to hit the ball straight. I'm terrible at golf. You got a two-scratch. You're a two-scratch golfer.
Don't be lying to our people. Don't be lying to them like that, because I'm going to tell you to continue to follow us, because we won't lie to you on this podcast here. Give us a follow. Hit like, follow, give us a review or a comment anywhere you listen to your podcast at, whether it's iHeartRadio or Apple Podcasts. Please tell a friend to tell a friend to tell a friend. Come check us out. This is what we do. We bring you top-tier guests, former players that are now all in their second acts, doing great things.
And we got two good ones today. We got two former players that are now head coaches. We have the Jacksonville Jaguars head coach, Doug Pederson, and the new head coach of the Carolina Panthers, Frank Reich. And
I got to say this. Frank Reich blew it away at his press conference.
Yeah.
The dress game.
He was, so fresh and so clean.
Magnifico.
And check him out in this interview right here. Check it out. Today, we got a special guest with us. This gentleman is the head coach of the Jacksonville Jaguars. He previously played for the Packers. He won a Super Bowl when he played with the Packers, and he won a Super Bowl when he was a head coach with the Philadelphia Eagles. Welcome to the show, Doug Pederson.
There it is.
Appreciate it, guys. Thanks.
You know what? Let's just get the awkwardness out of the way. Coach, with the Eagles, what was it like to be in Philadelphia to win a championship, playing in Philadelphia under Sean? Well, Sean Payton and the Saints, we go to Philly. He was like, look, the game plan is to get the crowd to boo by halftime, because it is so rough and the fans there are so special and they are so unique. What did it mean?
Don't even say unique. They're mean. They're like,
help bring a championship
Eagles fans
to that
are just,
city.
they're
after
different.
So long. What was that like?
It was, it's very special. I played in that city. I worked with Coach Reid on his staff in that city, and obviously I was a head coach in that city. And it's, you just said something right there when you were with the Saints, and Coach Payton said, hey, if we can jump up and the crowd's going to turn. Well, I took a Jacksonville Jaguar team in there in week 3 or 4 this past year, and I said the exact same thing. I said, guys, if we get up on these guys, the crowd is going to turn. And it was we were up 14-0, about to go in 21-0, and the crowd was turning on them. It was turning on them. But that's their passion. And for us to win a championship that year, the way we won it with the guys that we won it with, as you guys know, it's a special bond. We've all been in the locker room. We all understand what that means. And we lost some guys that year. But for the city of Philadelphia to wait 52 years and that organization to win a championship, Coach Reid took him to a Super Bowl, and I have a lot of respect for Coach Reid. Mm-hmm. They lost. He's been to like 5 or 6 NFC championship games with the Eagles, and so for us that year, it's very special. And hate to say it, but there's a lot of Eagle fans around this country that I run into all the time.
I just couldn't get down with the grease on the poles. Then they
they didn't want him to climb up them and to tear them down.
But they were still climbing up the poles.
They were still climbing up poles and trees and
they just
everything.
they just different. They got
that
a little
crazy.
Jail cell and they had like a judge.
There's a little holding room in there in the stadium.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just Philly's Philly, man. I mean, I think that's what makes Philly so unique, and a lot of respect for those fans. Yes. And I tell you, they're passionate, but they're loyal. Mm-hmm. I mean, I hate to say it, we could be 4-10, and they're still going to show out. They're still going to pack that that stadium, and they're going to hang with you all season long.
So how would you compare Eagles fans to Packer fans? No, Packer fans are like, that real deep Wisconsin, they got that real thick.
You've been there.
Oh, I've been there a few times. I feel like they're like the nicest fans though. Like they are extremely nice and loyal in the cold, and they get so much snow. They don't throw snowballs at you.
Now. Hold on. Brett Favre, Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah.
They've had 2 quarterbacks for like 50 years there,
or
some crazy thing.
Very true.
You know what I'm saying? So they've had it well. They've had it good. They've they've had a lot of success. They've been to a lot of playoff games, a couple Super Bowls. So it's a different crowd. But you're right. It's a in the wintertime, you're going to see nothing but blaze orange. Yeah. Because they just got out of the hunting woods or whatever, and they came to a game at 12 noon. But again, they're very loyal. They're very supportive. They're passionate about the Packers. I loved playing there for the 8 years that I did. And again, there's a lot of Packer fans around this country, and I still run into a lot of them.
Yeah, they travel well.
They do. They do travel well.
So when you were in Green Bay, I was backing on Brett Favre. Like, what was that experience like for you, and how did you make it last so long being his?
Not just the backup to him, but that quarterback room. What was that like? Because you had a lot of great coaches there too, and all those. I
had Steve Mariucci in '95 when I went there, and then it transitioned to Marty Mornhinweg, and then ultimately we had Andy Reid.
Yeah,
Andy Reid was our position coach there, and Darrell Bevel, who's still coaching. He's in Miami right now. He was one of our position coaches at the time. So we've had a lot of great coaches. Coaches. Tom Rossley was the offensive coordinator at the time. And then, in our room there was Brett, there was Jim McMahon, there was Matt Hasselbeck.
I forgot Jim, when he left the Bears.
Matt Hasselbeck was in there.
Matt, yeah.
We've had, Henry Burris, who
oh my good from Canada,
Canada Hall of Fame.
He won a in Canada.
He won a
don't
Grey
even
Cup.
know who Henry Burris is.
He won a Grey Cup.
Yes. Oh my God.
Played in Chicago for a couple years.
He won a Grey Cup, right?
Won a Grey Cup. Yeah, won a Grey Cup. So we've had really, really good quarterback rooms. Obviously, they were very lighthearted rooms. So there was football being taught, but we enjoyed each other and had a great time.
So, Doug, following up that question, so after you finish your career, playing wise, when did you know you wanted to get in coaches? You just rattled off 7 different great head coaches that were all around you at your different times in Green Bay. We even talking about with Coach Rhodes was coaching defense too. On the other,
I wasn't with him though.
Oh, okay, okay.
We missed. I missed Coach Rhodes.
That's fine, but you still had an influence of all kinds of coaches. So when did you know that you want to get in that profession?
So my last 2 years in Green Bay, I really started thinking, I was the backup quarterback, and it really started getting me thinking about what I wanted to do after football, how I wanted to transition. I wanted to stay in football somehow, some way. And so the wheels started turning, and it was not till that last year in 2004 that I really felt like coaching was going to be in my future. I just didn't know at what level, whether it was going to be high school, college, pro. I spent a lot of time with coaches, picking their brains, to see as you guys know, the grind of a season, the grind of a year, it's a lot.
It's a lot of time.
What these coaches go through, I'm like,
I really want to do
that? Maybe or if you're a college coach, you're on the road recruiting. You got 2 cell phones, it's a recruiting phone and your personal. I don't know if I want to do that. And so I settled on high school football. Mike Sherman, who was my head coach in Green Bay when I stepped away, gave me some great advice because he was a high school football coach, in his time. And he said, Doug, you got to find a place where you enjoy teaching the game of football. Yeah. Wherever you can go and just teach the game, figure out where that is for you, and then plug in. And so for me, it was high school. So as soon as I retired, I got into high school football down in Shreveport, Louisiana.
Oh, nice.
Okay. And I did that for 4 years.
What school?
Calvary Academy. Okay. I was in there with Evangel Christian.
I was going to say, did you have to match up with them? Oh, yeah. Evangel was pretty good.
Yeah, they beat the brakes off us a couple times. But yeah, I did high school coaching for 4 years. But in my
was that immediately after you
retired?
Right after. So no time
2005.
off.
I had no time off.
Head coach or position? Head coach. Oh wow.
Yeah,
okay.
I went right in as a head coach.
Okay.
And did that for 4 years, but there was still something inside of me that there was more.
Okay.
Right? There was more. And having been in the league for a combined total of about 14 years on and off, when you're around the game, you want to get to that next level. And so Andy Reid had a quality control job open and hired me in 2009 to come back to Philadelphia as a quality control guy. So I jumped from high school back into the NFL.
So did you have any other plans or career plans or goals, aspirations, I would say, outside of coaching when you were done?
No.
This is a
one. It was like, man, I'm going all right in the middle of the thing. Yeah. Chips are all in the middle of the table. I was like, here we go. Yeah. No, I'm a business major. I got a degree in business, but I was like, I don't think I really want to sit behind a desk or you know, I'm not the type that's going to go sell something.
Yeah.
You know, I was a football guy. And so,
I mean, you could sell me with
in.
being a head coach, though. Like, yeah, you could. I'm feeling it now. Like, you could sell me with it. You can sell me with that. I like your confidence. What are those conversations like though? When you typically it's the OCDC, and then you have a successful season or two, and then your name kind of gets floated around to becoming a head coach. Like, what are those conversations like? Is it just, are you on the phone talking to other teams? Is it your agent? Like, hey, I got some news. Philadelphia Eagles want to possibly your name's being tossed around.
Conversation and a good question, because you asked Sean something very similar to this yesterday.
Yeah, like how does that even like occur, or how does it arise about you becoming a head coach?
So for me, I was the offensive coordinator in Kansas City with Andy Reid. You know, because when Andy got fired in Philly in 2012, got hired in 2013. He brought me as an offensive coordinator. I was just a quarterback coach in Philly, left to go be his OC, and then, you know, we had early success in Kansas City. Alex Smith was our quarterback, and we had early success for those first 2-3 years. Well, as you guys know, in this business, OCs and DCs, when you have success, their names start to pop up around the different circles for head coaches. And so for me, my agent, you know, had been kind of talking to you know, some of these different circles, the guys that, you know, the powers to be around the NFL, and you know, actually it was in 2014 my name had come up the first time, and I told my agent, I said, I'm not ready to be a head coach. I need another year. I'm just not there yet. So I played or coached the 2015 season, and that's when Philadelphia, and it was a lot of familiarity with going back to Philadelphia for me. It was a good transition, good fit, and got hired in 2016.
So in that little time where you were like, I'm not ready, did you start to prepare in another way? Did you start to say, okay, I might need to think about some other app? You need to do that.
You have to really transition your mind from, you know, you're an offensive coordinator coaching one side of the ball.
Right.
Now you got to think big picture. Yeah. Now you got to think organizationally. Yeah. And not just the football side, but you're also dealing with the business side.
Right.
And business so for me, So for me, it was about, okay, learning more of the business side too. And you know.
But do you do that as, like, so when you're the OC and you're under, like, I think Andy Reid, we can say he can be a Hall of Fame coach one day. Like, he's an amazing coach, but you're doing the job calling all the plays and getting the offensive side of the ball or offensive players ready. Do you get coached as the OC? Are you actually like taking notes on how Coach Reid is running the team, how Coach Reid is running the business, how Coach Reid is interacting with the team, how Coach Reid is doing everything with the GM and the pro personnel in college? Like, did you start taking notes of like, okay, this is what he does. Okay, he does this, he does that. Like, are you still getting coached yourself? You know,
it's interesting because the 3 years I was in Kansas City, being the offensive coordinator, I got to spend a lot of time with Coach Reid because he's an offensive mind and all. And so we did game plans together and the whole thing. So those 3 years, he really started pouring into me what it was like to be a head coach.
Okay.
And so for 3 years, I was just like a sponge, just absorbing everything that all his knowledge and wisdom and everything. Because, you know, he spent 14 seasons as the head coach in Philadelphia before he went to Kansas City. And so this is the first time sort of behind the scenes look for me of what a head coach looks like. And so he does that with all of his guys. You look at the Sean McDermott's and the Ron Riveras and the guys that have, you know, Matt Nagy's and the Eric Bieniemys of the world and those guys that are going to go on to have been head coaches and will be head coaches.
How many is that? That's
you know,
like, you just named like 6 head coaches that came off of him. I guess I didn't realize that.
You know, but that's what he does.
Yeah.
And he's more about coaching his coaches than he is coaching the players.
Yeah.
You know, and that's what he did for the 3 years. And it's you just got to be a sponge and take it all in.
So when your coaching career ended with the Eagles, all right, you really took a whole year off.
I did.
And how important was that for you to take a full year off to kind of decompress? I did that after my career playing years. Peanut did not.
I did not.
So
foolish.
What would you say was the reasoning behind that, and would you suggest it for others?
The reasoning for me, coming off of the 2020 season, was right after the 2020 season, that's the pandemic season. It was rough on all clubs, and it was obviously rough on us in Philadelphia. We didn't play well, quarterback issues and things like that. And I was not in a good place mentally, physically. I just was not in a good place. And looking back on it, it was probably a blessing to be released, because I needed time. I needed time. For me, I needed to get away from the game. I needed to get away from football and just separate myself just a little bit and really kind of clear your head and really think about what life is going to look like. Either you're going to step away from the game and retire, or do I want to continue and coach? And so as the 21 season went, and I did, I had some issues with my brother, and he passed away to pancreatic cancer that year. So I got to spend a lot of time with my brother. Yeah, I appreciate it. And spend a lot of time with him and his wife. And so there were life things. We had a wedding. Our oldest son got married that year. So there's things in life that come up that sometimes, as you guys know, in football, you miss, right? You miss. Sometimes the job precedes family. And that's, you don't like that, right? So this gave me a chance to really dig into the family a little bit and be around family, and also give me a perspective to how, if given an opportunity again, how to coach again, and how to be a better coach, and how to really influence players, right? And how to lead an organization, lead a team. Because I knew it didn't take long. It took a couple months, but I knew I wanted to get back into coaching. I wasn't done. I was young. I'm young. I'm in mid-50s, but I'm relatively young.
Rome is too. He's like mid-50 something. Y'all got the same hair. Y'all like mid-50s.
We got that gray word.
It ain't going nowhere.
It ain't going nowhere. It ain't going nowhere. But yeah, so that year was really good. So but you look at Frank Reich. Frank Reich got let go during the middle of the season, and he got right back into it this year, which for some it's different, right? Yeah. It's just, but for me, it was what I needed at the time to get back in, because that window of opportunity closes so fast in this league that I didn't want that to pass by either. And I had opportunities to be a coordinator again in 21. The teams were not going to get the best version of me, right? Because I was in a bad place. Mentally and physically.
Kudos for you for like realizing that and kind of stepping away, and thanks for sharing that. I think a lot of people need to do more of the, I just need take my time off, take my 365. You got great advice. Who told you to take your time off? Your GM?
My GM. Yeah, Mickey Loomis told me. Mickey Loomis said, if you want to be involved with football in any shape, form, or fashion, he said, I would suggest you take some time. Take a year off. Like, you've been good. You played a long career. You made plenty of money. Take some time. Really decompress, and then figure out, like, self-reflect and really get away from the game, and then say you might start missing it again, kind of like maybe what you did.
Yeah. And you start feeling better, and you feel like you can be a better version of yourself the next time around, right? Because of the experiences that you went through. Yeah. Leading up to that decision.
And that was your first break, because you stopped playing. You went right into coaching.
Stopped playing, high school coaching, NFL coaching. So
that was your first break.
It was my first break in a long time.
Yeah. Good. Well, good for both of y'all for doing. I don't think I ever took time off. I just kind of kept going. So I'm envious of both of y'all for doing that. But yeah, that's another topic, another day. So when you were in Philly, Jalen Hurts, you guys drafted him, and it probably wasn't received well around the league. Now, I know you're not with...
We talked about these Philly fans booing, so that's just natural reaction.
It is natural, but it wasn't very well received in the beginning, right? I know you're no longer there, but he's gone out, played well, had a MVP caliber season. What was it about Jalen that drew you to liking him and drafting him?
So I was there obviously when we drafted him in 2020, and we're sitting there on day 2 of the draft on Friday, and Howie Roseman, Jeffrey Lurie, myself. I can remember having a conversation saying, "Hey, if Jalen is sitting there at our pick, we should pick him. We should take him." And I was like, yeah, all of us were like, yes. And it wasn't to draft him to replace Carson Wentz at the time. In this league, you need two quarterbacks. You need a solid backup quarterback, and so we felt like that this was a great option. He's a tremendous athlete, good quarterback, smart kid. But before all of that, I've had a chance to talk to Brian Dable, who coached him in Alabama, right? Lincoln Riley at Oklahoma. I talked to a lot of people, and just watching his film and knowing his story, this guy's wired the right way. This guy is a football player.
Yeah.
And I just felt that if this kid gets an opportunity, whether it's in Philly or maybe somewhere else down the road, this kid is going to shine. I just felt that in my heart of hearts, just understanding who he is. And so for the short, 1 year that I was with him, I saw that. I saw his work ethic, the way he prepared, and he was the backup. He started the season like the third quarterback, and then he made his way to the second, and then ultimately he played and started the last 4 games of the season that year. But I just knew that if this kid gets an opportunity, he's going to do some really good special things. And we've seen it here now, not only last year but this past season, or I should say 2 seasons ago, and then this last year, just what he's capable of doing. And I had a chance to see him back in February, and just tell him how proud I was of him and how he's battled through
Philly
a lot of
fans
adversity.
owe you.
Yeah.
Like they owe you a ton for bringing him in.
I think as a former player, it really does mean the most when you have your former colleagues, your coaches that you pass through times, and they really still all keep up with you. And they're and when you hear those words like, "Hey, I'm watching, I'm proud of you," we do take that for granted. So, we don't take it for granted, and it does mean a lot. And I'm sure you had that when you were a former player and would run to other coaches,
other coaches and stuff like that. Tell you those kinds of things. Yes,
and
it means a lot.
Chris Ballard was my guy. Chris Ballard drafted me, so I could talk to Chris, and I could text Chris right now, and I tell everyone to this day, man, I came to Chicago because Chris Ballard, he saw something in me, the heart of hearts, and was just like, no, I'm telling you, get this kid from Louisiana Lafayette. I know no one knows the school, nobody knows where it's at. But draft this kid.
I know where it's at.
I know where it's at.
Well, that's the Louisiana connections. I appreciate it, though.
No doubt. So Doug, in your current situation, we all have heard the stories about how toxic the situation was in Jacksonville before you arrived. And what could you say was the biggest thing, and how important, sorry, not the biggest thing, but how important was it for you to change that culture?
The biggest thing for me, and again, this was all part of 21 being out of football. How was I going to be the better version of myself? And then when the Jacksonville thing started gaining a little more traction, and then that might be the landing spot for me, I had to kind of research the situation a little bit and see just kind of what went on down there. And it wasn't good. It wasn't good. The players were really in a bad place, mentally, coming out of that season. And for me, it was about, okay, I'm the next head coach standing in front of these guys. How are they going to trust me? Because they lost faith and trust in the head coach before. So how are they going to trust me? I'm a head coach figure, right? So I didn't even know if I was going to have players at the offseason program,
right?
Voluntary program. Everybody's out, and they're like, I ain't going. We got drove into ground. Our practices were hard. I mean, this is the offseason. So I put together a message to the guys that first day, and I actually did it over the course of a couple of weeks, but I talked a lot about communication. I talked a lot about that. I talked a lot about trust, and me trusting you, you trusting me. I talked a lot about the people that we surround ourselves with, right? The right people in our building, outside of our building. And so I just kept formulating these ideas with the players, and slowly over time, I think I was able to gain their trust, right? And then, we just kind of worked through, because there were questions like, Coach, how are these OTA practices going to go? I said, what do you mean? We're going to be out there an hour and 20 minutes. We're going to get our work done. We're going to be done. What are you talking about? It's going to be easy. We're going to meet and lift some weights, and you can go home. 6-hour day. Wow. And go get paid, whatever. But I think they had respect for me because I sat in their chair, as a former player, and I could relate to them. And so there's a lot of that goes back and forth, that really sort of impacted our football team really heading into training camp that year and still really not knowing how we were going to do.
Yeah.
You know, I felt like we could be a 500 ball club that first year.
Yeah.
But you know, we exceeded probably everybody else's expectations, but our own. As you guys know, you only believe in yourself and your team, and you felt like you're a good football team, and we did some good things last year.
So one of the things, we all have our welcome to the NFL moment, right? I know we all have them as players, but I'm going to switch it up, and I'm going to ask you, what was your welcome to the NFL moment as a head coach? Like, what was that moment for you? He's like, damn, so this is what it's like to be a head coach. Like, I didn't see that coming. And it just like really like, holy, you know what? It kind of shook me. What was that moment?
It was actually my first regular season game in Philadelphia in 2016. Played the Cleveland Browns at home at Lincoln Financial, and I coached the preseason games, and it was like, oh, yeah, these are great preseason games, but this is the regular season.
Yeah.
And that ball teed up and it kicked off, and I went, oh boy. In my mind, I'm like, okay, this just got real. Because now you're managing the game.
Yeah.
I got a little red flag in my pocket that I may have to throw.
Yeah.
You know, I've got to call timeouts, and you know, I've got to. I got to flip to the defensive side, and I got to listen to what Coach Schwartz is talking about, you know. And so it just became, for me, it just became kind of that aha, like, this is real. This is now, okay, I kind of like it, but at the same time, you're kind of paranoid a little bit.
That's the first time I've heard a coach say that. It's like, man, this has got real. I heard players say it all the time, but a coach, you the first one was like,
I'm going to tell you something. It gets real because you know, and then at the end of we won the game. Plus we're playing a rookie quarterback, Carson Wentz, rookie, first game.
Yeah.
Rookie. He's a rookie, you know, so there's a lot of things kind of going against you a little bit in that first deal. We ended up 7-9 that season, but, you learn, right? You learn from the good, the bad, the ugly, as we say. And, each week we got a little bit better and ended up winning a championship in year 2.
Now pick one real quick, because I got to know this. I know they want us to hurry up. I know we only got a couple minutes, but who are you rooting for in this past Super Bowl? The Eagles or the Chiefs?
I plead the fifth.
Okay, all right. Then I'll accept that answer. I will accept that answer. It was very close, but I had to know. I had to know.
That's a good one. That's a good one.
It's all good.
Read between the lines.
Here we go. All right. Here's a good one then, Doug. Who is on your personal Mount Rushmore of influence? Not just football, but in life for you.
Well, you got 4.
I get 4
because some people might not know how many on Mount Rushmore.
I get it. I
understand, but one of them is my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. He's number 1.
Good. Love it.
He's number 1. Number 2, I would definitely have to put Andy Reid. Up there. The impact he had not only as my playing career, but as my coaching career, professional career.
Sure.
Andy would be one of those. My dad's on that list.
Okay.
My dad passed away. He never got to see me coach a head football. As a head coach, he never got to see me coach a game. He passed away actually the last preseason weekend, right before the first right before that Cleveland Browns game.
Yeah, right before the kickoff.
So he passed away that week before, so he never got to see me head coach. So, but he's on there. The impact he had in my life as a, you know, and he coached me hard, probably shaped a lot of my beliefs and the way I am today. And then the fourth one for me, there's a lot of guys that have influenced or shaped my career. I'll tell you this, Mike Holmgren was another head coach I had in Green Bay.
Yeah.
He pulled me aside. I was playing. He pulled me aside during training camp, and we were actually passing each other in the building. And he told me, he said, Doug, you're a good quarterback, but you can be so much better. He says you need to really focus on taking your game to another level. You know the offense, you know what to do, you can manage the whole thing, but it's kind of like just cut it loose.
Yeah.
Right. Don't hold back. Just go cut it loose. Take it to another notch. And that really challenged me from a player's perspective, but it also has challenged me now a little bit, you know, because back in 2017, we were, you know, I was thinking about, you know, do all these 4th down decisions and 2-point conversion decisions. And, you know, it's like taking your team to another level. It's like cutting the guys loose. Don't hold the guys back.
Oh.
And so for me, those would be the 4 guys I would put up there that have really shaped, that really shaped and influenced my career.
Now, was that is that baby Jesus or is that the old Jesus? Is it 32-year-old Jesus or is it the baby Jesus?
Talladega Nights, if those that don't know
Talladega
that.
Nights. I caught on to that one.
I had to ask.
Jesus. This is a full-grown Jesus.
Okay, my last question though is, we retire every year, and when you were retiring, you were trying to figure out what should I do next. What would your advice be on a player that is retiring after this season, going into retirement? What would your advice be to him?
Wow. First of all, if somebody is either, if they're contemplating retirement or thinking about retirement, just make sure that it's the right decision, because I feel like that when guys get in that situation, one, there's probably something waiting for them,
right?
Post career, right? Whether it's still in the business or somewhere else, so that usually pulls guys in different directions that way. But the advice is just to enjoy. Reconnect with your families, right? Reconnect with your friends. Reconnect some of the relationships that sometimes football can tug on just a little bit. You think about our spouses. I mean, they're the ones that probably sacrifice the most in this, especially on the coaching side. Because the time away, and they're the ones that are, running the kids to schools and grocery shopping and keeping the house together and all that kind of stuff. And so reconnecting right there, but just enjoy it. Enjoy the memories, enjoy your teammates. As you head into retirement, look back on your career, enjoy those moments that, the bonds that you had in the locker room. I think those are the ones you carry for a lifetime, right? Those friendships, whether it's you've been on, multiple teams or one team, but just enjoy it, enjoy life. Sit back and, just think about the next chapter and the direction you want to go.
Cool.
Doug,
that's a wrap.
Appreciate it, man. Thanks so
guys.
much for joining us, man.
This
Really
is great.
appreciate it.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Hey, how can you not root for the Jacksonville Jaguars after listening to Doug or Coach Pederson? I'm really excited. I didn't really know a ton about him, but I'm really rooting for him now moving forward and the decisions and where this organization is going. Like, I'm really excited about where they're going and what he's doing.
I think you should be, Doug. He really showed himself. He was very natural, very candid with us, and really opened up about his own experiences as being a head coach and also a former player. This next coach you're going to be listening to, Frank Reich, really excited about everything he's doing for the Carolina Panthers and going forward. Let's listen in on his experiences and what brought him to this place and where he's leading this organization. Our next guest, and I'm get to do the honors of introducing this man, this young man right here. He's currently the head coach for the Carolina Panthers. He's a 2-time Super Bowl champion, winning a ring with the Colts and the Eagles. He also played quarterback in the NFL for 13 years. Mr. Head coach, Frank Reich. Now, thank you for that.
It's going to clap.
No, but I wasn't all the way done here, because I want to talk about the press conference when you got introduced to the Carolina Panthers' latest head coach. I thought your family, you were good, but the family overall was excellent.
Love it.
You guys had the Carolina Blues nailed down. The lighting was excellent. Your speech was great. They showed the highlight tape of you throwing the first touchdown pass in Carolina Panthers history. It was to Pete Meslar's, the tight end, as a matter of fact. They had white jerseys on. He had Pete Meslar's there. He had a whole bunch of his former teammates there. The Carolina Panthers really went all out. David Tepper, everybody, Mrs. Wright, the daughter, everybody looked great that day. It was beautiful. I must say, I was amazed. I was wowed. And now I'm in the presence of greatness. So thank you for being here.
Hey, I love that intro. And it was a great day. And when you have 3 daughters, you got to get the fashion right.
Right?
It was on point.
How old are your daughters?
The daughters are all married, so they're 33, 31, and 27.
Yeah, so, the husbands look good too. Everybody was in the colors.
Grandkids, the whole bit.
That's
cool.
The
grandkids were kind of not in the spotlight, but we had a great day.
That's pretty cool. So,
Okay, here we go. So let's just get the awkwardness out the way. So I didn't even know this until I read a little bio earlier, was that you were the quarterbacks coach in the with the Indianapolis Colts in Super Bowl 44, where your team was 14-2 in the regular season, and you eventually lost to the Super Bowl to a 13-3 New Orleans Saints team.
Yeah.
How was that possible? You guys were favored by most of the experts all week long. What went wrong that day?
I love the fact that you're just hitting me right in the face with this to start. That's the way to go. I mean, that's the way to bring it strong. We did. We had a lead, I believe, at halftime, and they came out of that fake onside, surprise onside kick, called by Coach Payton, start the second half, really turned the tide. Really turned the tide. But I was just talking about that with a couple guys last night, that game, but a couple of the Eagles guys about the difficulty of losing the Super Bowl. It's rough. It's a rough feeling. It's a bad game to lose.
Yeah, I've lost too. Flipping it, I'll give you, this is a layup though. Like, how was it, your first coaching gig, 2006, 2007, you were one of the, I think, quarterbacks or quality control?
I'd kind of been an off-season intern, was not actually there during the season, but had been there in the off-season. So the real first experience of it on field as far as the victory was in Philadelphia in 17. I did do that internship when they won it in 7, but the true experience was in 17 with the Eagles.
Yeah, because you were on staff, not on staff with the Bears, Colts, and I was on the field with the Bears at the time. And to answer the question or follow with it, yeah, it sucks. I still haven't gotten over my 2 Super Bowl losses. I'm like 0-2 with Peyton Manning. I don't even like Peyton Manning because he's just destroyed us in Super Bowls, man. I just why did you bring that up? And he never lets me live that down.
No, because I literally got my one. And, the onside kick, like you talked about, we had practiced that so many times, and I was supposed to recover it. But your guys, I'm not going to bring his name up, but kind of touched it, and then it kind of went awry. Yeah. But that's why you onside kick it to the Saints sideline, because we knew if anything goes wrong, we wanted to be on our sideline so we could get the refs and be arguing like it was us. And that was back in the day when you couldn't pull guys out of a pile.
Was that one of those where just the kickoff team knew it was coming? Did you guys tell anybody else? Or did everyone know it was pregame? Like, never even heard the backstory.
Okay, all right, Frank, here we go. So we get into halftime. It's an extended period at in halftime. Sean comes over to the defense because most of the defense is on the kickoff team. He said, I'm running a surprise onside. And we're like, yeah, okay, whatever. Just like, all right. And we thought he would change by the time we actually went out there. And he was like, I'm still calling it. Like, it's still up. We're running ambush. And we were like, all right, let's go. So I don't think I even got nervous because I had recovered it so many times and practiced it. And then when the play went awry, like, we had never practiced that. We didn't know what was going to happen if it went wrong. And it went wrong. And we just happened to fall on it. So it kind of went crazy. But yes, that is a whole backstory. Sean came in the beginning. He said he was going to do it at halftime. As soon as we went in there, he was so confident with it. And we were like, all right, let's do it. And we knew we needed to do something because we literally had not stopped the Colts all day. You guys.
Yeah, I also think in that game, if you remember, we got a little – at the end of the first half, if I remember correctly, we got a little conservative.
You did. You went with the fullback dive. You should have just stayed pedal on the metal because we hadn't slowed you down at all.
I know. We still regret that one a little bit. But
those are the only things that really changed that whole game. That's awesome. All right. Well, here we go. Let's go to currently. So, what drew you to Carolina besides your former, playing there, all those other things? What really drew you to this opportunity? Because I know when David Tepper talked about it, he mentioned, the other candidates, and he said, look, when Frank Reich came in, he had it nailed down of a future plan.
Yeah.
His vision was something that everybody could just get behind immediately.
Yeah, and really what I felt when I walked into that room in the interview was like, I felt like we were working. I mean, there was an instant connection, with the Teppers, with Dave and Nicole Tepper, with Scott Fitter, the GM, with the whole crew that was there. And, just felt like a conversation. It didn't feel like an interview. And that in both the first interview and the second interview. So obviously I played there, lived there for 13 years, so I already felt like home. My children are living in North Carolina. But the commitment and just hearing, Mr. Tepper talk about, okay, he and Nicole had been owners now for a number of years, but hey, they're ready to put the pedal to the metal. Let's go. The commitment from them, that's a big deal.
Yeah, it is. And so this is your second opportunity as a head coach.
Yeah.
And maybe you could give us a little bit insight of some things that you learned from your first experience that you will be different, and how will you treat this one different overall as well?
Yeah, I mean, it's unbelievable. How I don't want to say it's easy. It's not easy, but like when you first become a head coach the first time, it is a little bit like drinking water from a fire hose, right? I mean, it can be overwhelming. There's so much stuff going on. This time around, it just felt like, okay, let's go.
Seasoned vet.
I know what we're doing. This is version 2.0.
Right.
You get to debug things, right? It's like an app. You get version 2. It's updated. It's improved. You got out the bad program. For me, that was just a question of understanding the chemistry of the staff. Understanding the team we're trying to build, and that's what we were able to go in and paint that vision for Mr. Tepper.
So what's been the toughest thing being a head coach? Like, say your first time. Like we just asked Doug that. Everyone has that welcome to the NFL moment as a player. What was your welcome to the NFL moment as a coach? As a head coach?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's, you're no longer just calling the plays. You're over every aspect of the football operations. So that's both the, welcome to the, welcome to the NFL. But honestly, for me, that was like what I wanted. Like that was like, I couldn't wait for that. I felt like I was made for that. So, to learn, to go in, to dive in with the defense, get to know the defensive players, get in defensive meetings with the coaches, understand. I'm not trying to micromanage what the defense is doing, but you really got to put your hand and touch on every part of the team.
Yeah, Doug talked about that. He said, like, he remembered, like, oh man, I'm not just calling offense play. I got to switch over to the defense.
Right.
Just like listen in. And it really is different. Was your main goal always to be a head coach? Or like, when did that decision come in the factor, like, you know what, I'm going to coach. I want to be a head coach. Well, naturally, you want to be probably the best, which is the head coach. You want to be the lead guy, especially playing quarterback. When did that happen for you?
Like when I was like 6, I mean, I'm not kidding. I mean, I came from a family of coaches, So, no, I wanted to be a player first, like all of us, right? We wanted to play. But when I was in 1985, my rookie season, Bill Polian came up to me after the season was over, who was the general manager at the time. And he said, you're going to play a long time as a player, and then when you finish, you're going to be a head coach in this. You're going to be a head coach in this league. That was in 1985 after my rookie season. So, having a guy like that come up to you. Yeah. I come from a family of coaches. My dad was a high school coach. My mom was a coach.
What'd your mom coach?
She coached everything. She coached field hockey, cheerleading,
awesome,
track and field. I mean, she was the ultimate high school teacher. I can coach anything.
Yeah.
So my brother's a head coach. I just think I'm wired that way, been brought up that way. So, but the thing is, you guys know this, seeing it from the player side, that, as a coach, you don't want to be that guy who's coming in just trying to climb the ladder. So I never took it like that. I honestly didn't. I knew, hey, because I played 14 years. So, and then I took 7 years where I was out of football before I didn't get back into coaching until I was really in my mid 40s. So did I ever think I'd make it? I didn't know. I was just going to take it year by year, do the best I could, and hope that it worked out.
So when you got away from football, you said for 7 years, right?
Yeah.
What were you doing in that time? We often ask players. Doug said he never took time off.
He went
right into coaching. You took a year off. I didn't take a year off.
Yeah.
I wish I would have took a year off. Like, what did you do, and what made you just decide to stay away from the game?
Yeah. So I had opportunities to go into coaching right away, but as we talked about earlier at the onset of the program, I have 3 young daughters. I think when I finished, they were like 9, 7, and 4. So I knew once you get into coaching, man, it's 100+ hours a week. And I was like, all right, I know I want to coach, but I want to help raise my children first, So I wanted to help them with homework, go to swim meets, all that stuff. So I said, I'm going to take a couple years, really invest into my family, my children. My wife and I could do some things together, because once you get into coaching things, it's a commitment. And then we also, I went into full-time ministry. And so I was able to kind of keep my own schedule, did a lot of traveling and speaking. So that was the combination of things that I did for those few years.
So now that you are a head coach, every coach has their philosophy. Every coach has their saying of what they think the team should be. We obviously know in Carolina it's to keep pounding. We both played in Carolina for a year. Well, you played 2, I played 1. What has been your philosophy, or what is your philosophy like going into the season?
Yeah, no, the keep pounding thing is a way to talk about what we've always talked about for me, and that's that keep pounding is a relentless pursuit for sustained excellence, right? So we talked about that as an organization already with the Panthers, right? So we're going to clearly define what keep pounding, and that's a relentless pursuit for sustained excellence. We all want the goal. We all want the Super Bowl that we're talking about.
Yeah.
But we think the best way to get there is to create that sustained excellence, create a high floor so that when the opportunities present itself to reach for those championships, we're in striking distance.
So you're with the Panthers now. You guys have made the trade of the offseason. Let's just go ahead and call it what it is.
Y'all been busy. Y'all been extremely busy. I like the moves you're making, though.
Yes.
I like it.
With this opportunity to draft a franchise quarterback, like all the pressure that comes with that, all the decision making, all of the thought process, the mindset, so many hours, the manpower to create all these things, this opportunity. Could you just give us a little bit of insight? I'm not telling us to give us the pick, even though I think I know.
What's that process been like?
What has
the process been like?
Give me
more
all
than
of
anything.
that.
Yeah, it's great. With Scott Fitter, the GM, Dan Morgan, assistant GM, the whole crew, Mr. and Mrs. Tepper, they've been great. So the process is, dive in, right? Scott and his crew, they already have they've been evaluating these quarterbacks for, forever. So I just get here. So I sit down, I listen to where are our scouts at? Where's Scott at on his view of all these quarterbacks as we as a coaching staff begin to dive in. Now, hey, let's get out and meet these guys. Let's go to the pro days. Let's sit down, have dinner with them.
We've seen you.
Yeah. Let's bring them into our building. Let's dig down deep and take every second, every hour, every day to finish and confirm what we believe from the very start of this process. And that's what we're doing. It's a lot of fun. These guys are fun to hang out with.
So, yeah, I didn't see that coming.
And then on top of that, right? So you get that trade as we're talking about, and when you said about the moves, the big one was going to number 1. But now this free agency thing, Mr. Tepper just said, okay, let's go. Let's surround this guy with some playmakers, Miles Sanders, right? DJ Chark, Adam Thielen, Hayden Hurst, right? Let's get some playmakers.
So is the owner is he like super involved in like, hey, I want this guy, I want that guy?
No, he's has his, he's looking and hearing everything.
Okay.
He's obviously a brilliant guy and brilliant enough to know, hey, let Scott and I handle that. But he's involved in it. He wants to know.
Sure. Yeah.
And in particular, I think he's involved in all the numbers and the cap and the contracts and how everything's set up. I think he has his hands on all that.
Nice. So we were talking earlier about your coaching staff. You got a lot of ex-players. You got Josh, you got Deuce, you got D'Angelo.
Hold on, Josh McCown. Let's put a name on it.
Oh,
not everybody just knows Josh.
You right? My bad.
He played 18 years. We should.
With like 15 teams.
He was one of my teammates. See, I was with him. He was with me in Chicago.
I was with his brother Luke in New Orleans, so I know Josh very well.
Yes,
but your coaching staff, it has a lot of former players in it. Like, tell me what that process was like to hire those specific guys.
Yeah, I mean, Deuce is the first guy I called because
he was the first one on staff.
Yeah, he was. We were together in Philadelphia, and I just know, I'm Mr. Even Keel. Listen, I'm not a yeller and screamer. Everybody knows that. I'm kind of even keel, keep poise, their intensity and all that. But I need Deuce's fire and brimstone. Deuce brings the fire and brimstone, So, and then brilliant offensive. He's a brilliant offensive mind. It really has helped me when we were in Philadelphia in the run game. His perspective on some of the stuffs in the run game is really good, and in the protection world, which you have to be great at. But overall, I just wanted a blend, right?
Yeah.
I like the former player thing, obviously. I think there's advantages to being a former player, but I also think there's advantages to the coaches who have been coaching since they've been 20. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They bring a certain football acumen that a former player who played for these guys have been coaching ball all those years that we were playing. You know what I mean? So there's a certain advantage to that. So get the blend of that, old, young, get the whole thing.
I just like that when Deuce, he yells so much. Like he gonna yell and give you everything he got to. He ain't got a voice.
Well, it was funny because when you saw NFL Hard Knocks, it really put really shined the light on that whole Detroit staff.
Yeah.
And the staff were the stars.
Yeah.
And so we could talk about the players, but nobody cared.
I was rooting for the staff.
We were rooting. Everybody was rooting for that staff, and Deuce really came out the box. I didn't realize how fiery he was until that whole deal.
Him and Aaron, I was like, they was my two favorite people on the show.
It was really good, my man AG. Okay, Frank. So Coach Reich, sorry.
No, you're good.
Thank you.
Please.
It's hard for me. I'm from Alabama.
It's so Coach. Even though you're older and we're kind of, I still say Coach too.
All right. They want me to ask you about your Mount Rushmore, and I want to get to that. But I got to know this because you burst on my scene, and I became a fan of yours when I was a young man, when you led the Buffalo Bills back with this big comeback in the playoffs. Like that is
the greatest comeback
That
ever.
is who Frank Reich was known for the longest time. And now you're the head coach. How has that been, this transition of like, all right, this is what I'm known for, this backup that was the Macklin comeback forever, and now the head coach that's going to go and lead this program and this organization to hopefully win in Super Bowls?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a great background to step into this position, because I knew, right, I was a part of that team. I was the backup quarterback.
Right.
I was just I was the backup guy, right?
Yeah.
So, and I know that when you have a comeback like that, it ain't one guy, it's the whole team, right? So now as the head coach, that's really what I want to accentuate, right? I mean, listen, we know, we talk about the coaching staffs and how good our coaching staff is in the Detroit, but you guys know more than anything, this is a player's game.
It is.
It's a player's game. I always tell the coaches, it's like 10 to 20% coaching and it's 80 or 90% players making plays. But we got to put those guys in the best position. And so, I just think that background for me, but you got to put all these guys together, coaches and players, and it's got to be a team. I mean, it's got to be all about the team. And I think I've witnessed that and experienced that with some of the teams I've been with.
All right, now, your Mount Rushmore of influence on your life.
Ooh.
You get 4, all right? Who are those 4 that are up there on that hill?
Okay, well, I obviously, have to start with my mom and dad. I'm putting those together. I'm cheating. Sorry.
Okay, all right. We let you cheat on here.
You can do what you want.
Podcast.
But in particular, I'm assuming this is football related, and so
those are your coaches.
No, it didn't have to be.
It doesn't have to be football related.
It's just what made you today. These 4 people made me.
Perfect.
So,
okay, so
mom and dad,
it starts there, right?
They group in one.
And,
okay, 3 more.
And I do think I do think the influence they had on me, that I'm a blend of the two of them. As a coach, man, I just idolized my dad. He was a stud, man. He was a stud player. He was a stud coach. He was a winner, and he's a man's man. He played with no face mask, broke his, he's just a tough
I love
dude.
him.
I don't cuss very much or almost not at all, but I want to say when he was a tough man, he was a tough dude.
Tough right? SOB.
Yeah. He was a tough, yes, he was. And this game is about toughness, right?
Yeah,
so I just feel like that, he put that in my soul, right? He put that in my soul. As far as coaches, the 2 coaches, it's got to be, the 2 other people would be Marv Levy, right? So played for Marv, head coach. Just an incredible person. He knew how to push every button. He was cerebral, but he was just connected with players. He was an older man, but yet he had a way to connect with everybody.
He had a ton of great highlight films, just the NFL films. Just watching him talk.
Just watching him
and say things on the sidelines. Great highlights.
I've had a chance to meet him twice.
I've never met him.
I was like, man, that's Marv.
Well, he's from Chicago. Was in Chicago for a long time.
Yeah.
So, but him, and then kind of his partner in crime, Bill Polian, who was the GM, and then he was the guy that drafted me. He was the guy when we went to Carolina, when he went to Carolina as the GM. He signed me as a free agent to be the first quarterback in Panthers history. I mean, just for a couple games until Kerry Collins would take over, since he was the 5th pick in the draft.
You didn't even have to say that. We'll take that off.
Yeah. But Bill, everywhere I've been in my football career, Bill Polian's stamp is on it, right? He's been like a football father to me in many respects. So that's 3. And then, of course, who made me today is my wife. My wife, we've been married 36 years. you go this journey of the NFL. It's a crazy journey, right? There's high highs, there's low lows. You got to have a center. You got to be centered in on things. So, our relationship has been a real foundation for me of strength and peace.
That's awesome.
That's awesome.
And not only that, the woman can dress. Like, I'm telling you, for those that didn't see it, go back out and watch the press conference. It was beautiful. The family was beautiful.
Thank you.
Here's my last question for you, Frank. What was your coach? Sorry. And Peanut kind of already talked about this as the head coach, but I want to know your welcome to the NFL moment as a player as well. Like, mine was my rookie year in training camp, where I looked up one of the injured guys. He had shades on underneath his helmet while riding a bicycle. I was like, man, this is the league. Like, this guy's big time. I want you to tell me what it was like in the 80s, like the 80s.
Okay, well,
when football was real.
Yeah, it's like,
okay, when football was real, and this is really, you guys know this when you see the old film, but like when football was real, when we came into halftime of our very first game in the NFL, and I'm not going to mention any names because not that it matters, but I come in and one of my teammates just lit up a cigarette.
Cigarettes.
He's smoking a cigarette at halftime. And I'm like, okay.
That's awesome.
Welcome to the NFL.
Oh, my goodness.
But one other quick one, if I could just, for me, the real first moment, like welcome to the NFL, my very first preseason game was against Chicago and Walter Payton, and I'm on the field warming up, and there was Walter Payton. And this is a guy that I idolized. I mean, I couldn't believe it. I was on the same field as Walter Payton. That was incredible.
That's awesome.
Yeah. We always have that, man. That's beautiful. All right, exciting times ahead for Carolina Panthers, obviously with Frank Reich at the helm. And really exciting news, just, now that they have the first overall pick. I think I know what they're going to pick at quarterback, but that's up to them. What do you think, Peanut?
I think they're gonna do something good. We already know what they're gonna do. They're gonna pick a quarterback. So let's just lay it out for him to play it out. Thank you for tuning in. I'm Peanut Tillman. That's my guy Roman Harper. We appreciate y'all. Thanks for listening.